Okay, so in order to turn off the music, again, you're going to go to the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. Looks like that is resolved, so that's great. And we're just about ready to get started with the PowerPoint. I believe we have all of our attendees, so welcome. So we're going to go ahead and start in with the PowerPoint, and I'm actually going to show you a nice photo of us for the remainder of the session until we get to the end where we'll do some more questions. But for now, we have a photo of Molly and me. There we go. And so I am now going to take you through a PowerPoint for a couple of minutes. And the first thing I want you to know is if you would like to see just the PowerPoint on your screen while I'm doing these first few slides of the presentation, please click this icon you see with the 4 arrows pointing to the 4 corners. That's going to give you the full screen view. And if you need to shrink that back in order to add a question to the Q&A, please feel free to do so. But otherwise, you can watch it full screen until you need to ask a question. All right, so we're here to talk about Bloomboard, and Bloomboard is an entirely online application. So what that means is on the internet, you're able to go to the Bloomboard website and connect with tools that relate to your coaching process, specifically through tests, and also there will be folks who are using this for the leads process as well. Today we're mostly going to focus on the test process. We know that the majority of you are teachers in your districts and in your charter network. And so we are excited to have you and excited to show you how you can use Bloomboard to communicate with your observer about different observations and growth plans that you have in process. And we're excited to show you how Bloomboard can help you work on your goals and set goals, and how you can find resources from Bloomboard's resources marketplace to support you as you work toward those areas that you've identified are your areas for growth. So we will be showing you the Bloomboard site and how you can participate in those kinds of activities. And we'll be pausing occasionally for questions, but again, please feel free to type into that Q&A in the corner as you have questions. All right, so we're going to be going for about 90 minutes this morning, and we have just finished up with the introduction. Molly and I are with our Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania office, so hello from there. Are going to get started talking about the overall context of this as far as having a professional growth plan process and how Bloomboard is really meant to support the work that you're already doing through tests and leads. So I'm actually going to turn it over to Molly now so that she can talk to you a little bit more about that.
Good morning. Thank you all for joining us. We're going to move into a little bit about the overall PGP process, and then we will start looking at what Bloomboard actually looks like and get logged in and demonstrate the website. Talking about evaluation and why we do evaluations and the parts of evaluations in Arkansas, we start with a self-reflection and goal setting. And many of you have already done your PGP last spring on paper. I'm not sure every district has, but I think that most people have at least some sense of what the professional growth plan is. What we have done is we have basically built the professional growth plan into our Bloomboard application. So while it doesn't look exactly the same as the paper form, as you will see, all of the components are in there, and it's a tool that we've designed to really help stimulate your plan. And the things that are happening during the school year are the formative evaluations. So we have the informal observation and the formal observation. At the end of the year, we have the summative evaluation, and then we start another school year all over again. And one of the things that you'll notice from this slide is that there's professional learning happening throughout. It is something that drives, the observations and evaluations are driving the professional learning, and vice versa. So it should be, there's a feedback loop. So this is something that might be familiar to many of you. This is the TESS PGP form. So as you know, as most of you may know, the step 1 is identify your target areas, step 2, set actionable goals, and there's 4 steps. So what we've really done is added a step 5. And the step 5 is the implementation and monitoring of your professional growth plan. This is where Bloomboard comes in. So this is where the professional growth plan can really feed into the informal and formal observations and the meetings that are happening throughout the year. It's also a place where you can adjust goals as necessary. Once they are put on paper doesn't mean that they are set in stone. So you'll see that the way the website is set up is you can be continually looking to your goals and seeing if you need to make adjustments based on observations or based on your own self-evaluation throughout the year. So the implementing and the monitoring portion, which is the Bloomboard, where Bloomboard comes in, we have a few ways that we are powering tests and powering the evaluation cycle throughout the year. There are action steps. Many of those are you can consume a resource on the Bloom list, which you will see. This is where you can access professional development resources from our marketplace of resources. You can also refine and add goals, as I mentioned, based on feedback or based on self-evaluations. And then the monitoring portion of the platform is for the learner, which is all of you, the e-portfolio. You have a space where you can upload artifacts, where you can do self-rating throughout the year. There are a number of things that you can access and look at, and that is really like having a binder of all of your ongoing observations and artifacts that is just online. So now we'll move into the platform, and I'll ask Shara to move into the next screen. This is where I'll demonstrate what Bloomboard looks like. Okay, so when you have your Bloomboard accounts, this is the website that you will go to, and this is where you will log in. The first thing I'm going to show is a login that the first screen you will see when you log in is actually this screen. And you will accept the service. You can set a new password to whatever you'd like. Oh, I'm sorry, it's taking a moment to load. I apologize. Okay. I know why.
Open a new screen.
Yeah, sorry about that. let me adjust this very, very quickly. I apologize.
And throughout the presentation, we'll be trying to define terms as we use them. As you might have noticed, a lot of the time when we're talking about your role as teachers or support specialists using Bloomboard, we're using the term learner. And that's because we know that people in a lot of different jobs can be using Bloomboard to set goals and to participate in coaching with their observer. And so we like to use that term learner just as a blanket term that describes teachers who are getting evaluated, principals who are getting evaluated, just having that opportunity to use one term learner to cover all of those people. And so that is the focus of our session today. That's why we've called it the Learner Webinar, and why we'll talk about the learner view of Bloomboard and the things that you'll be doing as a learner.
Okay, so I think I have it fixed where everybody can now see my screen. And I'll log in and show you what it looks like when you first log in. You'll accept the terms of service. Up here, number 1, you can change your password. And then if you want to help Bloomboard with some feedback, you can check yes, or you can check no thanks. If you do check yes, please fill out your role. And then you'll select take me to my dashboard. Okay. So that was just a demonstration of how to first log in. I'm going to use an account that we have prepared for today.
And you can see as Molly's doing this that there is a link just below where she's typing called Don't Know Your Password. And you could click that if you can't remember what password you're supposed to use with your username. And the system will send you a reminder email of what your password should be. Another option that you have also is to call our support desk for assistance if you're having trouble logging in.
Okay, so now that we're in, this is the home page that all learners will see when they first log in. So I'll take you through some of the components here. You'll see your name up here in the right-hand corner, and the first thing we'll do is click on Profile. This is where you can adjust the information. So if you would like it to be Matthew instead of Matt, you can change the name up here. You can add your birthday. You can also add some the grades that you teach and save that, and it says profile updated, and you can do the same for content areas. You're also able to change your profile picture. When you first log in, you won't have a profile picture loaded. This is where you could upload a photo or take a photo using your webcam. And so you can really personalize your profile page. So we'll go to password. And this is where if you do need to change your password, if you'd like to update it, I know some people change pretty frequently, 3 months or so. This is where you can do that. And we'll go back to the home page. So you'll see a number of things on the home page. We'll get to these links up here in just a moment, but I want to go over what these components are. The first thing you'll see is the Bloom list. This is the big, takes up a lot of landscape on your home page. This is the main thing. And this is where you will be able to add a kind of a personalized playlist of items that you are working on. The next thing you'll see is the current observations, and this is a list of all the activities that are ongoing. For this account, we have already set one up with the informal observation, a formal observation, and a PGP meeting. But in general, when you first log in, you wouldn't have any current observations. This would be blank. But this is a way to keep track. It's a little bit like a scheduler where you can see what do I have coming up, and it tells you the date that it will happen. If you scroll down just a little bit, you'll see a yellow note. This is where you can plan your goals. So Bloomboard, because we're all about professional growth, we know that a lot of that growth comes from goals. And so we have them right here on your homepage as kind of reminders for what you want to be focused on and what you want to be working on. And you can create new goals at any time, and this is where you will get to your goals section. The last thing that I'll talk about right here on the homepage is Visit My Portfolio. So we'll get into this when we go over the PGP in just a moment, but this is that binder that I mentioned where you can really house your artifacts, you'll access all of your meetings, and you can do your self-ratings. Okay? So the first thing we will do today is a evaluation or goal.
Yeah, let's do a goal first.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go into plan. You click on the sticky note, and you're taken to what's called the goal planning section of your Bloomboard dashboard. So this is where you'll see a couple of blank note cards. This is the areas of strength and the areas for growth. And you'll notice that this does not look exactly like your paper PGP that you did in the spring. This is kind of a blueprint of that PGP looks on paper, but we've put it into the website to make it a little bit more user-friendly. So if you want to type an area of strength, say you want to work on differentiation this year, you can type that, you can type transitions, you can type, actually these are areas of strength. This is what I think I'm really good at. So areas for growth would be, let's work on assessment. And these two areas don't actually affect your goals. Think of these two note cards just as note paper. This is where you can just take some notes about the things that you want to work on or the things that you know you're doing well. When you're actually ready to formulate a goal, you'll scroll down to the bottom of the page and you'll see that there are some blank sticky notes right here. So if you have, when we first start out, you don't have any goals, we'll click on where it says add a goal summary and you can type a goal. I want to improve student assessment. And you'll notice that you only have 100 characters to do so. So this is really just your goal summary. We'll take you to the next page where you can do some filling out of the goal and sort of deepening the goal in just a moment. So I'll click enter, and you'll notice that a little gray box that says view details shows up. So I'll click into the view details screen. Now this takes me to this goal number 1. And some of these questions you'll see might be a little bit familiar from the PGP. This is how we are going to measure and check that we are actually completing this goal or working on this goal. So how do we know which indicators does this goal align with? If you click on the blue text, you'll see that the rubric pops up. The educator rubric will come up to the side. You select that. And these are the domains and the components of the Arkansas Educator rubric. So if you know student assessment aligns with, here we go, using 3D, using assessment in instruction, you can check that box and remember to click save. And now you get a little red note that this goal is aligned with 3D of the Arkansas Educator rubric. And then we also want to talk about specifics because setting goals is actually the easy part. You know, stating which goal you want to accomplish is actually easy, but knowing the step-by-step of how to achieve the goal is much more difficult. So this is a place to take notes for where you can make specifics about reaching your goal. And then you also want to know what data will you use to measure progress. So if you think that improving test scores is a way to measure the progress on this particular goal, you can save that, and now you know, how am I going to measure this goal? And you can look back and say, oh, I said I was going to see improved test scores, and I want to check on. You can also add. You can also say that you need some resources. If you say you need some more face-to-face time with a senior teacher or a mentor, you can add a note in here. And then, how is this goal relevant to you and your students? You can fill out some more information. And this is an important one. When will you collect the data? When will you complete this goal? So you can set yourself a little timeline of, I really want to have this goal completed by the end of the first semester. That way you know that by the second semester, you'll be feeling better about where you are in terms of student assessment. So you'll notice down here at the bottom of the goal, we have a link to the Bloom list. That was the item I showed at the home page, that big section that was taking up most of the homepage, the learner homepage. The Bloom list is connected to the resources. So we'll add a new Bloom list item. What are you going to do? I'm going to improve assessment by meeting with a senior teacher so that I can improve my own. If you click on more details, you'll see that you can actually set yourself a date. So if you know that you want to set up an actual meeting with a senior teacher, you can choose a date to do so. We'll set it for tomorrow, and we'll create it. So it's kind of assigning yourself a task, and we'll keep you thinking about this particular goal and what the actual concrete steps are that you can take to help meet that goal. Another thing you can do is look for resources. This will take you to the marketplace, and we'll go through this in a little bit more detail later on, but I want to show what the marketplace looks like, where if you are looking for a resource associated with a particular goal, say assessment, you can search by keyword. And this is about self-assessment, so we don't think that's the correct one. Here's a good one, 25 quick formative assessments for differentiated classroom. You can select the resource. It looks pretty good. 87% of teachers would recommend this. If you want to take a look at this resource, you can add it to my Bloom list. And you can even attach it to this improved student assessment goal so that it's tagged. You can also add it without attaching it to a goal. Okay. At this point, we'll go back to the home page and see where this item came up. And now we're at the home page, and I see that my goal is on my Bloom list. And if I click on it, I can view that I will improve assessment by meeting with a senior teacher so that I can improve my own assessments. I'm going to do it once. And you can even upload some evidence to display that you have actually achieved this goal. Okay. I'm going to mark this goal as done.
And just to clarify, this is one of the Bloom list items that's a task toward completing that larger sticky note goal of improving assessment. So this is just one thing that this sample user has created and assigned for themselves as a step along the path to achieving that goal. Molly, can we go to that self-assessment sticky note and click in there to show where if we're later in the year and you've taken all the steps that you needed to achieve your progress here, you would actually at the top right-hand corner be able to change this goal to, you can delete it if it wasn't complete, or otherwise your coach or observer who's working with you on your progress would be able to mark this complete for you here if you had actually achieved the overall goal.
Okay, and notice that you can print as well. If you feel that you need to print out the goal, you can select this print icon. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is a self-evaluation. And we access that by clicking on Visit My Portfolio below the welcome and the name. So when I visit my portfolio, it's really taking me into, as I mentioned, this binder of artifacts and activities. It's really everything all in one place. That's one of the nicest things about Bloomboard, is that you don't have to have 3 different folders and different binders and paper copies in one place. Everything is housed in one user-friendly location. So the first thing we'll see here is the Aggregated Evidence and Ratings tab. This is where we do a self-evaluation. The other thing that we'll see is the Artifacts folder and the Activities folder. And I'll go over those in just a moment.
And just to clarify, when you are logged into Bloomboard, there are several rubrics that we've received from the ADE for different types of roles that you might have in your district. And so depending on what rubric you were assigned, that's the rubric that you're going to see in Bloomboard. So if it's appropriate for you to see the AR Educator rubric, you'll see that one. If you have a more specialized role, maybe as a librarian, for example, there's a special rubric for you that you'll see here, and you'll also see it when you're aligning your goals. So that will be set for you. We've been working with a contact from your district to set that up. If you're concerned that you're seeing the incorrect rubric, please be sure to contact support or contact the lead contact from your district to make sure that everything is set the way that it should be.
Thank you, Kara. Yeah, that's great clarification. So yeah, we have all of the rubrics for Arkansas, and we're just using the educator one today to demonstrate. If I click into the artifacts folder, you'll see right now it's blank because I haven't uploaded any artifacts, and this is where you can do so. We'll go over that in a moment. And in activities, you'll notice that these are the same meetings that were appearing on the home page. So we have the PGP meeting, we have the informal observation, and we have a formal observation. So this is just another way to get into the activities, and you can see what's coming up and what what you have on your agenda. So before we get into the PGP meeting, we first want to do a self-evaluation. Now, a self-evaluation can be done at any time, and this is important for learners to know. When you complete a self-evaluation, we have a button here called Create a Snapshot, which I'll show in just a moment. But when you do a self-evaluation, you can do it at the beginning of the school year, you can do one a month after that, you can do one towards the end of the first semester. You can do as many self-evaluations as you would like. This is for you to consider where you are according to these components. The observer will not see your evaluation unless you actually attach it to a meeting. So these evaluations, and this one that we'll create right now, I will attach to a meeting, but you are able to create an evaluation and keep it private for yourself as many times as you would like. So what I'm going to do is evaluate a few of these, and you'll notice that as I click into these boxes, they change color, and I can also see that my initials for this demonstration, my initials are MD Doyle. You'll see that the initials pop up in the corner, so you know who has actually made that particular rating. But say you don't remember what the criteria are for demonstrating knowledge of students, for example, for 1B. And you want to see where what's the difference between proficient and distinguished? How do I know which one to select? If you click on this arrow below the component, you can see the criteria are here: unsatisfactory, basic, proficient, and distinguished. And you can also select, if you want to look in and read these, you can select it from here, and you'll notice that it'll color the box appropriately. So that's one way to see the criteria. You can go down and select as many of these as you like. I'm going to put myself as basic for managing student behavior, and for organizing physical strength, proficient. Notice that you don't have to complete the rating. You don't have to rate yourself on every single component. That's because you may not know at the beginning of the year how you're doing on communicating with students. Really, if this is a new school year and you have a new set of students, or you're just starting out, you may not have a rating for each of these. But once you've selected a few of them, we'll click on this button where it says Create a Snapshot. So clicking on Creating a Snapshot button opens up this little section of the window, and you'll want to give the snapshot a name. So I will name it today's date, so that I know when I did it. And I'm going to attach it to the PGP meeting. Note that if I do not attach it to a meeting, the observer will not be able to see it. So I will select the PGP meeting, and I will create a snapshot. So this number popped up, which means that I have one snapshot created. And you also see that in green below where I just created the snapshot, it says that the snapshot has been successfully created. And it took me a little too long to get to view it here, but I can go right here and select it. And it will open another browser window. Let me make sure it's coming up. Okay. Is it coming up for participants? Let me try refreshing. I apologize for the delay. Look, we want to make sure that you can see what we are demonstrating, and it looks like there's just a slight delay with the browser. Okay. If you're having trouble viewing anything, please type in a question just so that we know that everybody is able to see what we're demonstrating.
This would be a great time actually to remind you that if you want to go full screen and minimize where the Q&A section is, you can click that icon at the top of your screen that looks like 4 arrows in a square, and that will make the shared screen full screen so that you can see Bloomboard on your entire screen. And you'll just click that again if you need to make it small again so that you can type in a Q&A question.
Okay, so hopefully everybody's seeing what we're seeing. This is the Arkansas Educator Rubric. This is the snapshot that I just created. You'll notice that it opened as a separate browser window, and that's because it's static. Once you've created the snapshot, I'll try clicking in here, and you can see none of the colors are changing as I click through. And that's because the snapshot is really like taking a photograph, that's why we call it a snapshot, of where you stand at a particular point in time. Okay, so if you want to go back and make a new one, you'll have to go back to your Bloomboard dashboard, and you can adjust it here. But once a snapshot is created, you can't change the actual snapshot. It's really like taking a photograph, but you can always create a new one. So if you're seeing an old snapshot that you evaluation screen. Okay. The next thing I will show is the artifacts folder. And there are no artifacts in here currently, and that's because as a learner, as a teacher, I've started my school year and I don't actually have any artifacts yet. It's just the beginning of the school year and I haven't put any in here. You can upload a video or you can upload a document. I'm going to upload a document and I'm going to select a lesson plan. Notice that I'm not clicking close. It's at 0% uploaded and we're waiting for it to get 100%. I'm still not going to click close. I will let the platform create the document itself. There you go, and you'll see it's added right. So you can download the document or you can delete it. You can also edit the name if you wanted to make it specific to a class. The next thing, and again, this is like your binder of evidence or artifacts that you have in your classroom. You really can take a snapshot of student work or a photo on your phone or something of student work. You can take a little video of a student presentation. You could upload a PowerPoint presentation. You can collect all of the artifacts that tell the story of your of a class, for example, right here.
And everything that you put in right there will be private until you attach it to an activity you're working on with your observer. So just like that snapshot, until you attach that to a meeting is something only you can see. Same thing with any documents you put in here. Like Molly said, it's like a binder sitting on your classroom shelf and no one can see the contents until you've decided to attach to an activity with your observer so that it's shared with them.
Now we're going to get into the PGP, and I will click over here on the activities list, and you'll see that the PGP meeting is at the top of the list and it is switched to green, and that's because I created a snapshot and I attached it to the PGP meeting. So if I click the PGP meeting, these are the steps. There's a self-evaluation, there are goals, and there's the PGP meeting, which, as most of you probably know, is optional for fall of 2014, and it's optional in Bloomboard. I know that the PGP is required by the Arkansas Department of Education. Whether you do it this year on paper or in Bloomboard is your choice. Your district may be requiring that it's done one way or the other. That's up for each district to decide. So I want to talk a little bit about what we're seeing here. This is the title of the activity, so it's the PGP meeting, and it says who is participating. Matthew Doyle is me, the teacher right now. Jessica Tillis is the observer. And here we have what activities are. So the three that I just mentioned, self-evaluation, goals, and the PGP meeting. It also tells me when that PGP meeting is scheduled for. It was scheduled for today or yesterday at 9 o'clock in the morning. It would normally be scheduled for some point in the future. Right here in the middle, you'll see a shaded box, and this is required by. So the self-evaluation is required by Matthew Doyle, right? This is the learner, the teacher. And goals are also required by Matthew Doyle. So just to step back a moment, the PGP process is really about an individual's growth plan for the year. So it makes sense that a self-evaluation and goals are required because we can't really have a growth plan without thinking about some goals to put into it. This tile right here for JT, Jessica Tillis, this is the observer. And you'll notice that the tile is shaded in gray. It's not a colored tile. That indicates that this step is not required for the observer. When you see your initials in color, you'll know that that is a required step for you. If you see that your initials are grayed out, you'll know that that is not a required step for this particular meeting. And over here to the right, we can see the status. So because I created a self-rating and I attached it to the PGP meeting, I can see that I've already completed this step. So it's required by me, Matthew Doyle, and it's already been attached. And you'll have a notice here if something has happened. If I hadn't attached it to this meeting, this section would be blank. So the next thing we'll do is go into the goals section. And you'll notice that this takes you, it shows your goal, but you're in the PGP meeting. So you can see that the goal has been attached right here to the PGP meeting, and you know that you've completed this step. The next step is the optional PGP meeting. Now this is optional for the observer. And because nothing has been completed by the observer, you won't see anything in this screen. If your observer had taken some notes for the PGP meeting, if you had actually had your PGP meeting and there were notes here and they were shared, they would be in here. You would be able to view the notes from the meeting.
So Molly, what if I'm looking at my goals page in here and I realize I've set one, I'd like to set aside. How would I do?
Within here.
Yeah, so I'm looking at goals and I realize I want there to be more goals set for me this year. How do I set a new goal?
If I click on the sticky note, it takes you to that goal. So you're just seeing that particular goal that we've already set. But if you know that you want to add another goal, you go back to your home page, and you'll remember that you have these sticky notes at the bottom of your screen, and you want to set a new goal, because one goal is probably not going to be enough for the year.
Not for these master educators, definitely.
So let's add another goal. Now we're in the goal planning section again. We can say we already filled out goal 2, and we need to set a couple more. If I want to add another goal, there's a perforated box here where I can click on add another goal, and you'll see that it just gives me a brand new sticky note, and I can have as many as I would like. And 3 is not the limit. If you scroll down, you will see add 4, 5, you can add as many as you'd like. One thing I'd like to point out is this little edit button in the top right-hand corner. It looks like a pencil. This will let you edit the text of the goal. So say you typed it very quickly and you made a typo and you want to go back and correct it, you can go back and do that again.
And just as before, you can click View Details if you want to align this with your rubric that's in Bloomboard, or if you want to fill out the questions to make this a SMART goal. All of those options are available each time you type in a goal and then click View Details for that goal.
Okay.
And so now that we've set multiple goals, when we go back into the PGP meeting, we're going to be able to see that that goals page is now pulling in all of the goals that we've set. So it's showing anything that I've set as a learner on my home page as far as goals are concerned.
And I wanted to show that there are a couple of places to get back to the PGP meeting. I can go to Observations and Meetings, and it will take me directly into my portfolio, that list. I can also click Home see my current observations here, and I can click into the PGP meeting from this screen as well, and it will take me to the same place. You'll notice that there's generally more than one way to get to where you are trying to go in Bloomboard, and that is pretty intentional. There are a few important places, and there's no one way to get to them. So don't be worried if you can't remember exactly the path of clicks that I've taken today. When you get into your live account and you click around, you will see that you will be taken to the same few places in a number of ways, and you can always find what you need. Okay. So that was the PGP process. We're going to go back to the PowerPoint for just a moment.
And just before we get started on some more slides, just want to check in with everybody, make sure that we don't have any questions that you've been waiting to ask. And so I'm going to switch us over to you. But please make sure that you have muted the music that will start up. And also, please leave me a little note in the Q&A section letting me know, if you're good or if you do have some questions. That would be very helpful for us to know. So again, if you need to turn off the music, that's going to be the lower left-hand corner, clicking that pause button. And then please leave a message or a question in the Q&A section for us right now, just so we either know that you have no questions or we know what your questions are.
Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about the informal and then the formal observations. So first we're going to demonstrate a little bit of what the informal observation process will look like as from the learner's dashboard. So before we do that, some of the focus will be on the goals from the PGP. It makes sense that as you've set goals at the beginning of the year, and really the implementation and monitoring step that is Bloomboard is following up on those goals and seeing how you're doing on them. So one of the ways that we can do that is with informal observations, and another way is with the formal observations. So the informal observations are not only driven by goals from the PGP. We want to make it clear that other information can come up, whether it's from meetings, from staff meetings where everybody is voicing need for support in a particular area, or just a discussion you had with the coach outside of the classroom. So there are a lot of things that can inform an informal observation when your observer actually steps into the classroom. One of the greatest things about Bloomboard when using it to really show the picture of your teaching and the progression of your practice is using artifacts. So as we mentioned, the artifact section of Bloomboard is really like the binder, but we like to say that it's telling the story of the lesson. As many of you know, an informal observation may not be scheduled. You may not know that it's coming. It depends on how your district does informal observations. Sometimes it's clear that you will have one. Sometimes it's more of a pop-in observation where your observer comes into a lesson for 10 or 15 minutes and then pops back out. So if that's the case, and you really want to tell the whole story of the lesson, maybe some of the preparation you did, maybe something that happened after the observer left the room, you can really use the artifact section of Bloomboard to tell that whole story. So for example, if something amazing happens right after the observer leaves the room, a student has a great question or a great interaction occurs, you can always type up a little note about it and add it to your artifacts binder later. Somebody turns in an amazing piece of student work, you can take a picture of that and upload it as an artifact. The informal observation from the learner side, and I will demonstrate this in just a moment. You can access the informal observation and upload a document in the artifacts tab. And it's important that you share that particular artifact. Again, as we mentioned, unless you share something, it won't be able to be, the observer will not be able to see it. You can also tag evidence from the artifact and include a comment. And this is something that I'll demonstrate in just a moment. Okay, so we'll go back to the sharing section where we can go back into the platform. Okay, I'll just wait for this to load because I know there's a slight delay. All right. So I'm going to go home because I want to going into the informal observation now. We finished with the PGP meeting, and now we're working on the informal observation and what it looks like from the learner side. So I'll click here into the informal observation, and notice that it takes me to the steps in the activities for the informal observation. There's 4 activities. The actual observation, when the observer comes into the classroom and views the lesson, artifacts, a rating, and feedback and next steps. And as we mentioned before, certain things are required by one party or the other, and you can tell right here which part of it is required and by whom. So the informal observation is required by the observer, and you know that it's required because the tile is colored. There are 2 tiles here under artifacts. Both of them are grayed out, which means that either the observer or the learner can add an artifact, but it is not required by either one. The next step is the rating. Now, in an informal observation, the rating is not required by the teacher, by the learner. It's optional. You can do one. You can always create a snapshot and attach it to this informal observation, but it's not required of the teacher. It is, however, required of the observer. And the final step is feedback and next steps. And this activity is important because it's really closing the loop. Once you have an informal observation, you might hear, great job, you're doing wonderfully. I think we have an idea for how we can help this particular part of your lesson, and this is where you can provide some feedback on that, and also enter in actionable next steps. The observer can type in next steps, and you'll know some concrete things that you can do to improve. So I'll click through into each of these and demonstrate what they will look like. The informal observation, notice that it's blank. The observer is the one who is required to do this step. And because the observer has not done anything, has not shared, you as the learner will not be able to see any of these notes. Once the observer has taken some notes, they will populate here and you will be able to see them. The next step is artifacts. And this is where I'll show you how to upload an artifact. Remember that for the informal observation, this is optional. You do not have to upload an artifact, but again, it's a way that you can tell the story of the whole lesson, or even what's happening outside of that particular lesson, even what's happening, the day before or the day after in regards to that particular lesson. So in the artifacts folder, I'm going to click on Upload Your Artifacts. And if you've ever attached a document to an email, it's a similar process. You select Upload. I'm going to upload the same lesson plan from before. And I'm going to wait. I'm not going to click the Close button. I'm going to wait for the document to populate. And you'll see that the lesson plan is pulled in right here. So there's text here. This is the lesson plan that was created from a Word document. And if I had more than one, I could click on this little arrow and a drop-down menu would appear, and I could select another document or another artifact if I wanted to look at that. One of the great things about viewing your document here is that you can tag parts of it as evidence. So if I highlight one of my objectives and I go over to the right-hand side of the screen, I'll see the components of the Arkansas Educator rubric. So let's say, for example, that researching the history of money or this particular objective or really having objectives is a way to set instructional outcomes. which it is, you can select this indicator, 1C, and we can also add a comment. And remember to save. Once you click Save, you'll notice that the indicator comes up as green, and you should be able to see that this piece of evidence has been saved. Notice up at the top of this list that it has not been shared. So you have uploaded a lesson plan, you have tagged a piece of evidence in it, but you haven't shared it yet. So your observer cannot see the work that you have just done. If you want your observer to see what you've just done, you must click Share Evidence. And now you'll see evidence is shared. So as you go through and tag other pieces of evidence, let's highlight another one. For example, 2A. And you select it and then save it. This piece of evidence is also shared, because once you share this, these tags for this artifact, the observer can see all of the tags. I'm going to go back to the informal observation. So now that we've uploaded an artifact and tagged the evidence, I'm going to go back to the informal observation, and you'll see that the box has changed to green. That means that a step has been taken and the observation is in progress. If no steps are taken for 7 days, but the observation is open, this box will turn yellow. And if no steps are completed in 14 days, the box will turn red. And it's a little bit like a calendar reminder, just a visual cue that you may need to take a certain step, and that the process is waiting for you to complete something before you can move on. So we already completed the rating step, and now we're going to see we completed the rating step for the PGP, and I just actually want to demonstrate that it's the exact same as for the informal and for the informal. So when you click on rating, you'll see that you have a blank rubric, and you can select ratings, and you'll notice that your initials, the learner's initials, come up again. When the observer does this step, there's a different colored tile here, and you'll see the observer's initials. So you can see where they match up and where they might not. You can also access that activities list from here. So these are the steps that are required for the informal observation. We're going to go to the feedback and next steps. And again, this hasn't been shared, so there's nothing to see, because this is a step that's required of the observer. So this is the informal observation process, those 4 steps. And I want to take a moment to see if we have any questions in the queue. It doesn't look like it.
Currently, we don't. Just to be clear, I'm going to write a little message. This is where you'd add questions.
Yeah.
And so if you come to that box, and you can even just leave us a note that says, we're okay. That would be helpful, just to know that you're still with us. You know, it's a lot of information, and so we will be happy to go back over anything that is unclear right now. And we also will, again, show you how you can access support resources. We have a wonderful support desk, and they take calls, they take your emails, and they will be able to walk you through anything and everything that we have shown you so far today.
Okay. So in the interest of time, and instead of going to the PowerPoint to show just 2 more slides about the formal observation, I'm going to select the formal observation here to show the differences between the informal and the formal. So when I click on the formal observation, you'll see there are many more steps and many more activities in the formal observation than in either of the previous 2, than either the PGP or the informal. And that's because there are there are more required steps from each side, from the both the learner and the observer. So the first one is the pre-observation form. And this is where you'll see a couple of questions. How do the lesson concepts fit within the scope of the discipline? You can answer these questions about this particular lesson, if you know you have a formal observation coming up on a particular day, you would type in an answer here, and it auto-saves. When you click anywhere else, you'll notice that the text remains, and there's no need to click save in each field. You can go through and answer the questions. You may not be required to answer all the questions. Your observer can let you know how many to answer, which ones to answer. And then at the very end, you want to say, save a draft. And it turns it into more of a text type document. So you'll see the questions in bold, and your answers will appear right here indented. You can edit them, and you'll also notice that in order for your observer to see your responses, you must share them. So this is an important step. In many places in Bloomboard, it is required that you share your activities. Otherwise, they're kept private for you, and your observer will not see them. So you can go back and edit your responses. You can start your form, and then something happens and you have to interrupt. You can come back to it later and finish it out, and then you'll be able to share once you've completed it. So we'll go back to the formal observation and look at the next step. Notice again that this is turned green because I've started. The next step is artifacts. And because these are grayed out, you'll remember that this is optional for both the learner and the observer. We've already uploaded an artifact and tagged the evidence, so I won't go in there again. It's the exact same process as with the informal. The pre-observation conference is a meeting that happens. You schedule a date. This will be scheduled by your observer, right? You notice that here where the colored tile is on the observer side, you'll know that this is a step for the observer to do, and there's no need for you to do anything here. The formal observation is also a step for the observer to complete. And if you click into either of these two things, you'll be able to see the observer's notes as long as they've been shared. So at the same time, if an observer starts creating notes and has to step away for a moment, he or she can go back and edit and choose when to share those notes once they've been completed and sort of cleaned up after the actual observation. The next thing required of the learner is the post-observation form. And you'll notice that the questions are a little bit different. And this is really a reflection of your observation. So, you can go through and answer the questions based on what your observer has mentioned to you. For example, your observer might only need you to answer questions 1, 2, and 4, and says skip 3. That's up to your observer. And you can type in a comment here. And again, go down to the bottom to save a draft once you filled out all the questions. And remember that until you share, it won't be seen. So I'm going to click share right now so you can see what happens. Your responses are visible to Jessica Tillis, and this means that they are visible to the observer. And it also means that subsequent changes are automatically shared. So if you go through and make an edit, the new responses will be shared as well. You don't have to share each time. But you can also unshare these responses if you want to make a change or take something out. We'll go back to the formal observation and see the next step. This is additional artifacts. So there's actually 2 places where you can add artifacts in the formal observation. And this is important to remember that artifacts are your way of really supporting your lesson and telling the story of your lesson. So there are a number of ways that you can tell that story, and there's a couple of places to add artifacts. The rating is required by the observer. It's optional from the learner, but both have the ability to do so. And the post-observation conference is done by the observer. So this is the formal observation process. You'll notice that certain ones have a date underneath them, and that's because it's an actual conference or a meeting or the classroom observation. The other steps can be completed outside of the classroom time at your leisure when you have a spare moment. I know of those. So the last thing that we're going to cover today is a little bit more of the marketplace. I'm going to go home to the Learner dashboard, and I want to show a little bit more of what it looks like to browse for a resource in the marketplace. Kira, did you have anything to add before I go into this?
Sure. I'm just going to take a quick second to just check on our attendees. Okay, great. All right, and we'll go back to sharing. And again, please feel free to enter questions into that Q&A queue, any comments that you have, and we'll make sure that we're getting responses to you. And so, again, Molly's now going to show us the resources marketplace, and as you saw, that's integrated with your Bloom list of to-do items toward goals. You can also access it from goals. Molly's going to show you how you can get there from your home page too at any time that you want to visit that resources marketplace.
So there's two ways to get to the resources marketplace. You'll notice up here there's a tab called resources. There's one called observations and meetings, and the home page is where we are right now. Observations and meetings will take you right back to the same place we just were, where we were looking at the PGP, the informal, and the formal. So as I mentioned before, there's more than one way to get to each part of your Bloomboard dashboard and where you need to go. So we'll click here to go to resources. You can also select right here, browse resources. They will go to the exact same place. Once you click on the resources tab, you'll notice that it comes up and it looks a little bit like you're browsing for music or for books or something in one of the major websites like Amazon or eBay or something like that, or iTunes. These are little tiles that demonstrate what the resource is. So I'll go over what the tiles are and then I'll show searching. Each of these tiles has an image of what the resource is. It says the title, and there's a little bit of a description. You'll notice that there's a cost associated with each resource. Most of the resources are free. Many of them do have a fee associated with them. Some of those are things like ebooks or even a course that you can take online. You'll see who published the resource, and you'll see here to the left a little thumbs up and a percentage. And who have used this resource and who would recommend it or found it helpful. You'll notice that this resource is 97%, this one is 100%. If you see a resource with a lower percentage, you might think, maybe that's not the best one for me. And now we'll look at searching for resources. So we can filter by rubric, and you can look up resources that have been linked to setting instructional outcomes.
And again, this will bring up the rubric that you're using in your role in Bloomboard. If you're not on the educator rubric, you might be on another one, and you'd be able to filter by the different areas on that rubric that you are working on.
So you'll notice that the images you can see here in the resources catalog have changed, and that's because we created a filter. You can also search by topics. Up here we have differentiation, literacy strategies, classroom management, and Common Core. And if I select more search options, you'll see that content area comes up here to the left. You can choose, say you teach grade 5, you only have less than an hour. So again, this will search for resources that are that you can read or click through and do in less than 1 hour. And you'll notice that there are far fewer. It's selected only 7 resources. You can also select by read or watch. So say it's something that I want to read. Okay, now we're down to 6. And I only want to see free resources. And all of those happen to be free. But if you were, if there were many more in here and you wanted to only see the free resources, you would select this and it would only show free resources. And as I showed earlier, you can also search by keyword. And now we're down to 1. So we know that this is really the resource for exactly what we're looking for. 3 to 5 reading in less than an hour. I want to read it, and I want it to be free. And so I know that this is exactly the resource that I need. And it makes it a little bit easier than going through and thinking, clicking on many different resources and thinking, is this what I really want? Is this really targeted to what I'm working on right now? This is a great way to get that, that targeted resource.
And if Molly wanted to start over, she could remove these different filters that she's put on. So she could uncheck boxes, she could click the X next to the keyword that she's entered up at the top there, so that it's not just looking for reading resources. Right now she's removing the rubric filter. She can also do clear all if she had done a whole bunch of rubric indicators, and removing that keyword reading will now bring her back to all the resources to choose from in the marketplace. She can start the process again or look for something different, tweaking those search options.
So I want to actually go into a resource and demonstrate a little bit of what it looks like. You'll see an overview. You'll see the recommendations up here, who published it, and the alignment, right? So this is a science resource, and it's targeted to 7th grade, takes less than 1 hour, and it's free. And if you go down, you'll see a longer description, and all the way at the bottom, you'll see the ratings and reviews. And these are the educators who would recommend it 100%. Only 10 educators have used this resource, but all of them would recommend it. 89% of them gained concrete strategies to improve their practice. So this is useful to know. You can recommend it to a colleague. And if you look up here, I think that we have, I'm not sure who else is loaded. You could type in a name of one of your fellow teachers, and you will be able to select that person, add a note, and send that recommendation.
And once that recommendation is sent, then that appears as a suggestion on their Bloom list. And when they log into Bloomboard, front and center on that Bloom list is their list of to-do things that they're working on, and also that recommendation that they can choose to accept, or maybe they don't like your recommendation. It's also possible to dismiss it if they don't want to engage with that resource.
So I'm going to add this resource to my Bloom list. It looks like something I want to work on, and I'm not going to attach it to a goal. And I'm going to click up here, View It Now, because I'm interested in doing this resource right now, watching it and going through. So once you're into the resource, you'll see a couple of tabs up here. The Information tab is what we were just looking at. Now we're in Watch the Video, and I would play to watch this video. And the next step is, you'll see here, Reflect. So if I click on this blue button, it will take me to the next step. There are no reflection questions for this resource. Many resources do have reflection questions here to show you what the resource is really getting at and what you can gain from it. You'll also notice here on the right a little yellow tab. This is called, it's a Bloom list item because I did not attach it to a goal. If I had aligned this resource with a goal, I would see right here, Goal 2, and that's how I know. It's a little bit like a file folder. So I know that this resource I have attached to Goal 2, and I can always see that. So I'll mark it as complete. And we know we're done. And this is where you have the chance to rate the resource. So you can say that you would recommend it to a colleague and that you gained concrete strategies. You can add an indicator here. You can even write a comment like you would write a review of a product that you're purchasing or a service that you've experienced, and then you would send feedback. Okay.
And so if we go back to the home page and we are looking at our Bloom list, in order to see what we've done, what we're working on now, what we've done in the past, and what has been recommended to us, we can click on See All Bloom List Details whenever we need to review that information. So again, upcoming would be anything that you have in progress that is appearing right there on the Bloom list from your home page. Completed is going to show us anything that you've already marked complete in the past that you've accomplished. And recommended would be anything that has been sent to you, maybe by your observer or by another educator in your district, that you could review and decide whether you want to use that resource.
Okay. So I'm going to go back to the home page, and we're going to demonstrate how you can access our support team. Once you're in Bloomboard, if you click on the word help up here in the right-hand corner, I'll show you what that looks like, you'll be directed to our support page. So there's a number of things that you can do here. You can submit a request right here on the website. You type in the subject, say I'm having trouble uploading an artifact, and you can type a description. It also populates some suggested articles. So this is where it will direct you. If you've never seen these articles, you might want to take a look here before you submit a ticket. You can say, I'm having trouble. You can attach a file or a screenshot if you're getting an error message and you would like the support staff to know what it looks like, and then you would click Submit. The next thing that I'll show you, if we go back to the support page, is how to email support. You can always send an email if you click on this email link here. The email address is support@bloomboard.com, and somebody will return your email with an answer to your question. The last thing you can do is call this number 888, or really it can be the first thing if you prefer to get somebody on the phone, 888-418-1595. And they're available Monday through Friday. In Arkansas, it's 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Central Time, but it's listed here as Eastern Time just for simplicity's sake. There are a couple of boxes here, a few boxes here. Observation and evaluations. This is real observers where you would go to find information for things that you would need help with. This is if you have questions about resources. And this section here, account configuration, is for people who have administrator accounts, which not many of you in the room will have. You can also say, you can look at some of the most common questions, what people are asking frequently. This is like FAQs, and it might help you. The best ways to find what you're looking for is to just type in a search. So I'll type in the term artifacts, click search, and it takes me to a lot of articles and documents that will be really helpful for figuring out how to, for example, upload artifacts. I'm going to click on this one to see what it looks like. So articles are really step-by-step guides for how to accomplish what you're trying to do. You'll notice step 1, click the artifacts tab in the ePortfolio. There's images, there's little hints of how to get there, and these are really helpful for figuring out if there's something that you're having trouble with, you don't remember from today. You can click all the way through, and you should be able to do what you are trying to do. And I want to get to the bottom to demonstrate what you can do with this little tutorial. You can select a PDF if you want to print it. So if you know that this is something that you have trouble with frequently and you want you can't remember the steps, you want to print it out and have it with you on your desk when you are using Bloomboard, you can always print out the PDF. You can rate the article, and you can submit a question from here as well. And up at the top, you'll notice that there is a list of links. These are related articles. So say you've learned now how to upload an artifact and you want to go over and work a little bit more on renaming or removing and some of the other things that are related to artifacts. So this is our support site, and just to make a note that they are available from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Central Time in Arkansas, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and we are all based in the U.S., the support team, so you will be able to speak with somebody. If you do not get an answer right away, you can leave a message and they will call you back and work through the issue that you're having. Is there anything you want to add about support, Kara?
No, as Molly said, you can pick whichever option is most comfortable for you to reach our support desk. So if you like calling them, they'll pick up the phone. If you prefer email, that's great. Any of those are options. And we also want to let you know that we've worked with your district to identify a number of super users in your district. And what that means is we have one or more people in your district, hopefully one per building was our goal, who has gone to some additional training on Bloom boards so that they are somebody who maybe you are familiar with or is nearby who can also provide you assistance. So if you're feeling shy about calling us, and you shouldn't because we're all really nice, you should know that you have a super user available, and talk to your principal about who that person is at your location. And then you'll know that that's someone who's had a little bit more exposure to Bloom board and can give you a hand as well.
Great. So we're right about at the time where we want to switch over to open this up for questions. We will turn the video back on so that you can see Kira, and we'll be able to answer your questions live. I'm here as well if you need us to answer questions. But I wanted to leave some time at the end in case somebody had a longer question that you didn't want to type into the Q&A field, and also to really to let you see that we are here and we're here to help, and if you need anything, we're happy to provide it for you. And remember that this session has been recorded, so while we were trying to keep the pace relatively slow, it is a lot of information and a lot of new information. If you would like to view it again, the link will be made available as soon as we're finished today. Or will we send it out tomorrow? I'm not sure if the...
Oh, yeah, the link is going to go out tomorrow.
Sorry, yeah.
Yep, just needs to buffer. You all know how that is. So, great. So that is this Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, where you can type in any questions or comments that you have for us right now. I'm going to send another message to the box too, just so you can see that this is the location to ask those questions. And I'm actually going to switch us over to a view where we can check out our list of attendees as well, see everybody who's here. So at the bottom here is this Q&A box where you can put in your questions. We'll hang out for a couple minutes here in case there are things that you're thinking of right now or questions that you are working on right now.
Just live there.
Gotcha. So Molly, maybe we can open the board up again and just a couple of places that are really key for you. All right, and so if we go back to your learner homepage, and let me move this little video pod over so that it's not blocking your view of the screen. There we go. All right, we'll get our faces back in over there. So just to reiterate, when you've logged in, you've got help in the upper right-hand corner. And you've got access to your portfolio right under the welcome and your name message. You've also got your Bloom list right there front and center. That's like the step-by-step incremental task toward working on your goals. And so from your Bloom list, you can directly go into the marketplace through the Browse Resources button, or you can add a to-do, I will blank, so that I can blank, using the Create My Own Bloom List items. You also get that under Current Observations, that preview of the activities that your observer has scheduled for you to work on together. And when you scroll down to the bottom half of your learner homepage, you're able to see that, and you can click on any one of those goals for more details or to add information or edit information if needed. So all of that is front and center for you in Bloomboard. And we'll also just do a quick review of what is in your portfolio when you click Visit My Portfolio under your name. So when you click that, we've got the Aggregated Evidence and Ratings tab, and now actually you can see adding up here the work that has been done from you working on those activities we just did in the professional growth plan and in the observation and the formal observation. And so you can see over time we've got the ratings that you've applied from these different events. Molly was able to access this information by clicking the arrow to the right of each indicator from your rubric. And so you're able to see the little squares and diamonds that represent ratings from past events, and that big color filling the square with your initials as a learner that lets you know what rating you've made right now today that would be included in a snapshot if you chose to make one. And so if Molly, had gone through this process and realized actually based on how things have been going, she'd rather reevaluate herself as proficient, she'd be able to just click on proficient instead to change her overall rating. So if you click right there we go, we've got the proficient rating there. And because she's clicked that arrow next to this indicator, as you scroll down, you can see that language from the rubric about what it takes to be proficient. As evidence is tagged over time, that evidence would also appear here now that she's got that down arrow expanded. So she would be able to see anything that has been tagged and shared by you or by your coach. And in fact, we've got an example here under 1C. We can see, oh, here's where you as the educator had tagged some evidence and added a comment about 1C. And so this will just continue building over the year and will also roll over from year to year. When you go to do a self-assessment at a later time, you'd be able to see that past information and reminders of where you stand as far as the evidence and the evaluations that you've received in the past. All right, and so just to review the other parts of this portfolio, we also have, again, we've been looking at aggregated evidence and ratings. We also have an artifacts tab that's your private file drive to put in documents that relate to your practice that maybe later you want to attach to an event that you share with your observer. And then finally, we have access from your portfolio to the activities that you're working on with your observer. And as they get scheduled and completed, they will appear here. So in the future, if you finish up the PGP meeting with your coach, you'll still be able to access it here, even though on your homepage it won't appear as an upcoming activity anymore because you've completed it. All right, so let's go back to the homepage just one more time. And again, you can get home by clicking on home or on up in the left-hand corner. It says Demo Arkansas right now, but in the future it'll have the logo for Arkansas. And anytime that you need to come in and review what you're working on for your professional development, we welcome you to Bloomboard, and we hope that you'll visit a lot. All right, so we don't have any further questions at this time. So we are going to wrap up this session. Thank you again so much for spending your time with us today, and we look forward to hearing from you on our support line anytime that you need. All right. Well, bye-bye.
Bye.